Anvar Varadaraj. I lead the COO function at Elgi. And a big thank you to Mr. Satish for inviting me here. When Satish came to invite me, I said, why did you pick me? To what do I owe this pleasure? And he said, well, your father was not available, so we'll go with you. I said, well, Satish, I'm actually the upgraded version, so you'll get a better outcome, I think. So in all seriousness, a deep sense of gratitude for the Jubilant team for having me here. I'm really invested in the intent and future of this organization, and I'm looking forward to seeing how we can partner together. I'm going to talk about scaling and growing businesses here. So if I can have a rough show of hands, who runs businesses, who owns businesses? Hands up, hands up. Okay, perfect. A lot of you, so hopefully what I'll say makes sense. And how many of you have struggles with growth and scale? Okay, perfect. So you guys have the same problems that I do as well. So hopefully it'll be helpful for us to dialogue on some ideas. Fundamentally, I believe that the basic principles for growing and scale apply across industries, across maturity of organizations and whatnot. So I will use some of the examples that we've had at LG, but I believe they'll be mostly applicable. There are two main things that I would really like for you to take away today. If there is nothing else that you remember from my speech, there are two things that I would like for you to take away. Point number one, fundamental to scaling and growing sustainably is how you as founders and leaders allocate at least 80% of your time. 80% of your time should go towards disruptive growth activity, and you need to be able to create the time and space to do that consistently. That's point number one. Point number two is your ability to scale and grow sustainably is going to be a function of your willingness to invest in and incentivize top talent. Again, I'll repeat the two things. How you spend your time, 80% of it on growth, and your willingness to invest in and grow talent. Just as a brief introduction of myself, I've been with our business for 10 years. If you asked me 11 years ago what an air compressor was, I wouldn't be able to tell you. I'd spent most of my life in consumer packaged goods marketing. Prior to LG, I worked on the Snickers brand in marketing in North America. And when I joined the business 10 years ago, my father said, you can head the marketing department. So I came to work on the first day. I was like energized, and I said, where's the team? He said, well, it's only you. You have to figure it out. So it was an interesting start, but the fundamental problem that I had then was people didn't know LG for what we wanted LG to know them for. They knew LG as a smaller, local, reciprocating compressor manufacturer. So we needed to get new customers. So that was our fundamental challenge. And so when we dove into the problem, we realized that if we had to get people to care about LG, we had to get them to care about compressed air, which is quite boring. Compressed air is quite boring. So in order for people to care about compressed air, we had to tell the story through the lens of people who use compressed air, which is far more interesting. Pharma manufacturing, auto service, amusement parks, pretty much any industry or factory uses compressed air. And that's the storyline that we took. We took a very storytelling approach to building our brand through the lens of our customers and our potential customers. And we picked the digital platform. And that was easy to do because at that time we had no money. We really had no money to spend on marketing. And the digital platform allowed you to start small at low cost and to be able to tell a story over time. And today, 10, 11 years after the journey, I'm really proud to say that we probably have one of the strongest digital brand presences globally. So after I spent 3 years setting up the basic marketing organization, I was able to hire someone far smarter than me to take the marketing organization over, and I actually moved to LG North America, where I supported some brand and marketing initiatives, but also helped run the business. I've been back in Coimbatore for the past year and a half, and I manage all of the factory operations and also sales. My father and I split some responsibility. So today I want to go through 4 or 5 steps that I believe will be fundamental to scaling and growing a business that could apply to any situation. The first step really is to set your goals, right? Setting your goals really needs to start with your financial metrics, your revenue, profit, cash, right? Now, your goals have to be somewhat rational, right? So if you're a 100 crore company in a 10,000 crore industry, you have about 1% market share, aspiring to get to 10% market share in a 10-year period is reasonable. That's a reasonable goal, right? So your growth or your scaling journey needs to start with a SMART goal, right? And then the subset of that is that goal absolutely needs to be bound by a time period, right? No more than 10 years, no less than 5 years. The reason why I say no less than 5 years is because you just won't be able to put in the resources required with that level, with that short a period to get there. So your likelihood of success is lower. And the reason why I say no more than 10 years is because you don't want your organization to lose stamina. That's very important. You need to be able to pick a period where your organization has stamina. So our long-term goal, roughly a $400 million business, we want to get to between $1.6 and $1.7 billion in the next 10 years. That would represent moving from number 5 in the world to about number 3. Right? So it's a time-bound goal, and we have certain profit and cash goals as well. So the first step is setting your goals that is rational and smart. And this is an exercise that someone like a coach or a consultant could really work with your leadership team to do. The second step is to pick the strategy for your goal. There are a lot of definitions of strategy out there. I think it's one of the most loosely held terms, but for me it's simple. Strategy is the path that you pick to get to your goal, right? So using Elgi as an example, we want to go from 400 million to 2 billion. We can go leverage very heavily and get there in a couple of years. But that would absolutely shake our foundations, erode cash, and essentially not sustain our organization for the future, right? So instead, we have a hybrid of organic and inorganic growth. So strategy, though, is effectively the choices that you make to get to your goal, right? That's point number 2. So you have your goal, and then you have your strategy, right? Now, going a little bit deeper into your strategy, you could look at it from a customer perspective. Today, I'm with these particular customer segments. If I want to grow 10x, these are the new customer segments that I need to get to. Do I need to launch a new product? Can I extend my new product? So where do I need to invest, right? So that will be part of the strategic choices that you make. So going back to the overall message, you have your goals and you have your strategy. What's point number 3? Point number 3 is about putting your goals and your strategy together, and that's your strategic planning process, right? So what does that mean? The strategic planning process, if I can use an image, is about trying to draw a line between where you are and how you want to get to your goal, right? So the first step is to say, if my journey is going to take me 10 years, how do I break that down into more manageable 2-3 year chunks, whatever it is that makes sense for you, right? Because if you have to grow at a certain pace, if you divide your total growth journey and that averages to 10%, but in the past 2-3 years, you've only grown 5%, you're probably not going to grow 10% in your first year, right? So you're probably going to see more of a hockey stick type path to your goal, right? So part of the strategic planning process is to say, depending on what I need to invest in and where I need to invest in, what is this path for me going to look like, right? So strategic planning is point number 3. Point number 4 is resource allocation, right? And this is very important. Resource is basically your time and your money. How are you going to spend it in this goal, in this pursuit of this goal and aspiration. And here's where we need to take a step back, right? A little bit of a step back to say, how comfortable am I achieving my goals today, right? So if you have a revenue plan of, say, 100 crores this year, do you really have to run the engine hard to get there? That's a question that you need to answer as a leader, right? How hard do you need to run the engine to get there? And if you as a CEO or a leader are focusing everywhere from collecting money to getting products out the door to making sure quality is right, then it's probably a good sign that your engine is running too hot. So even before you come into the goal setting and strategy process, you need to figure out a way to make sure the engine doesn't run as hot, right? And this is where I want to bring in my two key messages about your own time allocation and talent, right? So if your growth journey requires you to grow 10% in the first year, right? And you have consistently been able to grow 5%. 5 out of the 10% is sorted. You need to go find that extra 5%. So you as a leader need to spend your time on making that extra 5% happen. So today, do you have the bandwidth to be able to make that extra 5% happen, or are you spending your time on the bottom 5%? So that's a very important question for you to be able to answer, right? And when it comes to time allocation, you need to figure out, how do you secure that base 5%? Do you need to hire a strong general manager who can do the firefighting for you? Do you need to put some processes in place that can help you deliver the numbers reasonably? Do you maybe need a coach or a consultant to help you manage that 5% so that you can focus on the incremental 5%? So then the second part of resources is talent, right? Talent is something that I'm personally very passionate about, and frankly is necessary for our business. We are at a size now where it's going to be impossible for my father and I to do any sort of meaningful heavy lifting. We have to grow through our people, and it has to be meaningful for our people, right? So you need to understand in your own business, where is it that you need strategic talent to either hold the fort on your existing business so that you can focus on growth, or where is it that you need to bring some strategic talent in to help transform the company, right? So just taking a very basic example, if your growth journey requires you to have incredible pace of product development, right, and your own personal strength is more on sales, you probably need someone leading product, right? Or if your personal strength is product, and up until now you have used your capability and knowledge on product to bring the company to a particular place, then you may need someone in finance and operations to hold business as usual for your company. So it depends on how you do the diagnostics for your business. And fundamentally, it requires a certain level of willingness and faith that talent itself is critical for your business. I hear a lot of entrepreneurs say, well, you know, a finance person costs X, or a marketing person costs Y, I can do it myself. But you are the most expensive resource in your company. So the most expensive resource needs to be allocated towards the most valuable task. So if you are spending an expensive resource on low value tasks, you are actually costing yourself money. You don't see it in the P&L, but you're costing yourself money, right? And the other element of this is, do it before the industry does it for you. Today, we are seeing it in our business, and I'm seeing it generally everywhere. The number of options that top talent has, even in a city like Coimbatore, are immense. And as more and more multinationals come into our city, they are going to increase the cost of doing business. They are going to increase the cost of wages. So why not get ahead of it, secure your top talent, those that may be in your organization, and bring strategic talent that are going to bring about transformation in your organization before the market comes and sets prices, increases your cost of doing business. So just to summarize, set smart goals, pick a strategy that's sustainable, put them together in a strategic plan, allocate your resources to figure out where you need to spend time securing business as usual versus growth, and think about where you need to spend your own time and talent and where you need to bring in strategic talent. I really appreciate you giving me some time and platform to talk about this. I'm very passionate about business growth and marketing. So if any of you want to connect with me to talk more, I'm more than happy to do so. I'm a sincere believer in this type of platform, and I wish the platform a great deal of success, and I hope that I get to connect with some of you more personally. Thank you so much for your time.